Poignant good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And one of the things that we talk about a lot on the Loving Life channel is migration options. And look, for someone who is an expat South African who migrated from the country over 30 years ago now, let me tell you that it is never easy. Some of the decisions are made easier for people where they're victims of crime and they say that enough's enough and that's it and they're getting out. You know, they've got their inspiration to get out. Other people are just thinking about their families, their children, their future of their kids. And with things like black economic empowerment in play, white children don't have a great future in South Africa. Let's be quite frank about that. And of course, with the economy going pear-shaped under this corrupt ANC government, that doesn't help either. Which is why I found the article that I'm going to just put into this video very, very interesting. Because it's talking about what actually drives people to leave South Africa. And, you know, it kind of puts things in perspective, and it is a different point of view on this very, very important issue in any family's life in South Africa, especially those in the minority groups like the white population. The number of emigration queries by South Africans increased by 70% from 2018 to 2019, according to a recent report on immigration consultancy data. In other words, an unusually high number of people are considering leaving the country, and no doubt a sizable portion are doing so. There are various ways to interpret this statistic. One straightforward interpretation is that those who can afford to move, so a minuscule proportion of the populace, have calculated that the future prospects of staying have become more bad than good, and so are deciding to avoid that future. The state of South Africa's economy, political environment, education system, healthcare system, crime rates, pick any of these factors, and they will almost certainly feature in the reasons given by prospective emigrants. And it is invariably in this type of language that emigration trends are reported on. Shocker headlines like devastating brain drain and emigration is killing the country abound. Let's review what may be going on. Framed as a straightforward calculation of negative versus positive, the decision to move is simply a response to practical circumstances in the socio-economic environment, where the minus beats the plus. Perhaps it is welfare that matters most to them, theirs, their family, and this is reckoned to be under threat in South Africa. In short, these people want to be happy and seek a set of circumstances elsewhere where the odds for happiness are more favorable. No need for further ethical inquiry. They have done the right thing. This simple explanation is a distinctly utilitarian one and is attractive for being so simple. How can there be anything wrong with seeking the happiest situation for one's nearest and dearest? And yet deciding whether to stay or leave is likely to be far more complicated for most people than a calculation of good and bad. As a start, the topic of emigration tests our principles and touches on strong corresponding emotions. Imagine a person who thinks that national loyalty is of great importance. Perhaps from their perspective, no amount of potential bad can ever outweigh the good of being truly loyal to one's country. Indeed, this person may think that an appropriately patriotic South African would never even think that the grass is greener somewhere else. So theirs would be an argument from principle against emigration. Imagine someone who thinks that globalism or internationalism is an important ideal. From their perspective, moving countries is just the exercising of a human right to travel the world. The grass to this person is green everywhere, and there is nothing disloyal about going in search of it. In short, theirs would be an argument from principle for emigration. In reality, most people will have a bit of both of these instincts, and therefore be susceptible to both arguments. So decision to stay or leave involves utilitarian ingredients, good and bad calculations, and principle-based ingredients, patriotic and globalist sensibilities. There is more to it, but this is enough to go on. How these ingredients mix together will be different for every person with a different outcome, stay or leave. With this more rounded picture, we're in a better position to ask an ethical question. Is there a right way to weigh up the good against the bad? A right way to actualize competing ideals of national loyalty and global travel? It is helpful to look back at historical precedents for insights. There was a similar spike in emigration amongst white South Africans towards the end of apartheid. Those people would have made calculations and consulted their principles too. Of course, their motivating attitudes would have varied widely. So let's just hone into one and review it. For some, a deeply cynical attitude based on racist distrust of the new leadership amplified their calculation of the negative and offended their sense of national pride. And so they left. This is categorically not the right way to emigrate or do anything, really, because it is motivated by a cynical and morally reprehensible attitude towards others. Some of that racism and cynicism is probably also going on today, but to a lesser degree. And this time the people departing are racially diverse, according to the report. So what other deep attitudes are at play, leading so many to come to the same conclusion about South Africa? Its positives, its negatives, and their sense of loyalty to it. This is the interesting question about the 70% spike. A question that goes beyond the socio-economic numbers and beyond the blunt instruments of patriotism versus globalism. An attractive answer. They're driven by hope and a sense of adventure and have found a way to be both South African and global citizens. In their minds, regular visits and possibly even a long-term return will always be on the cards. A lucky few probably do fit this description. A more realistic and less attractive answer, the deep attitude driving many South Africans to flee the negative here and seek the positive elsewhere, to swallow the patriotism and head for the airport, is fear. It is about their very survival, or at least the survival of their lifestyle and that of their family. They are also lucky to have the financial means to make such a choice, when the vast majority do not. Yet they will be doing so with a sense of regret and disappointment. Leaving will be a wrench, a departure under duress. There is no right or wrong here, only necessity, and that is a terrible position to be in. The fact that so many are going through this process is a tragedy for the country, because it has become a place where fear creeps into many people's deepest attitudes, leading them to make fear-based decisions they might otherwise not have made. The glimmer of hope is this: those who are departing only because they feel they have to, not because they want to, are more likely to return when conditions improve, and there is a historical precedent of such a phenomenon. The task for everyone, those who are leaving and those who are staying, is to reject cynicism and to resist the temptation to draw a prejudicial conclusion on why the country faces the challenges it does. Unless we do that, there is no positive turnaround in sight. From wherever we are in the world, we can and must summon our deepest hopes and continue to fight for a better future for South Africa. Now, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there to consider. But from a personal level and a personal perspective, if I was a young married man and I had a couple of young kids and I was white, I would be getting out of that country, because those young kids do not have a future in South Africa, and those young kids are my future. That's my take on this whole thing. I know there are all sorts of complicating factors like, perhaps your parents live in South Africa and things like that, but the nitty-gritty is your future are those little kids that you got. And the racist ANC government, with policies like black economic empowerment, triple BEE, the affirmative action that is seen everywhere now in South Africa, that's destroying your kids' future. And that's the biggest motivation you should be looking at when considering migrating out of the country. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.